In that time, I literally thought the plane was crashing. And it's like, I literally thought the plane was crashing. I literally was like, what is happening? Like, are we about to die? The death of the business, I'm dying, identity is dying, like all the things, right? And what I realized was that God was just shifting me. And Marcus told me one day, he was like, bro, in the Bible, God always changes your name when he's gonna take you to a new level. So he was like, Abram became Abraham. Abram was already rich. Before God said, go here and I'm gonna make you this, he was already rich. But it was like, then he changed his name to Abraham. And he was like, then he became rich and fulfilled. So he was like, well, God is taking you, bro. He's taking you from just being rich to being rich and fulfilled. Yeah. But for Abram to land there, he went through a lot. You don't go from, and I talk about this a lot, you don't go from mountaintop to mountaintop. You gotta go from mountaintop back down a mountain, through the valley, and then climb a whole new mountain. Yeah. Hey, what's up, my friend? It's Marco Russell here, and welcome to the Strategic Scale Show, Confessions of a Recovering Workaholic. So on this show, we talk about how do you build a business that runs without you, without running you in the ground. And we talk about how do you win in all areas, not just in business and financially, but as a parent, as a father, as a wife, from a spiritual standpoint, from a mental standpoint, from an emotional standpoint. We cover it all so you can actually create holistic success in your business and your life. Let's get into the show.
Let's get into it. I mean, for this episode, I wanted to talk about your peace. And like, generally speaking, bruh, how do you go about protecting your peace?
So, great question. So how do I protect my peace? So I think it's interesting you asking me that, bro, because I'm literally working on, I'm gonna share this with you. So I'm literally working on my week 2 of, it's so crazy you asked me that. I'm working on week 2 of this, I got a Royal Flush series. Yeah. Right? And
which is fire. Can you give a quick recap on what you're actually talking about? Quick recap.
So basically, it's like, if you think about, if in the game of poker, the highest hand you can get is a Royal Flush. Mm-hmm. So it's an ace, a king, a queen, a jack, and a 10. They got to be all in the same suit. Right. And in a card deck, it's 4 suits. So it's like, if you got all 4 of those, if you got all 5 of those cards in the same suit, can't nothing beat that. Right. And so it's basically like in the kingdom, you have all 5 of those cards. Mm-hmm. So you got God is the ace, the king is Jesus, the queen is wisdom, the jack is the Holy Spirit, and the 10 means unity. Mm. So you got all those in unity. Right. And when you look at the different suits, those it's 4 suits, it's 4 seasons. Mm-hmm. So in each season, you still got a Royal Flush. That's good. But you got to know what's in your hand. Because you can be playing poker, you don't know how to play poker, you don't know the rules. Right. You can have a Royal Flush and not realize it. Right. And somebody else end up winning.
That's good.
You know what I'm saying?
That's good, bro.
Just like in spades. Like if you ever played spades and you ever be somebody, they're like, well, I got 3. Mm-hmm. And you look at their hand, you be like, nah, bro, you had 6. You just didn't know how to play the game. Right. You didn't know how to count cards, you didn't know none of the things, right? So when it comes to peace, so I'm talking about 3 things that, so like the foundational scripture is basically 2 Peter 1, 2, and 2 through 7. And in it says, in 3, it says, his divine power has given us everything we need for a godly life. So to represent God. Okay. So everything. So I was like, okay, what's everything? So it's like, what? So I said, okay, let me just share what 3 things are. Mm-hmm. It's 3 P's. I'm gonna just share one for this example. 1 is peace. Mm-hmm. That's why I say it's interesting that you asked me that. And this morning, in my time working on the series, I was literally on peace, right? So in it says, Isaiah 26:3 says, you will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. And it's going to answer your question, bro. It's going to be crazy you ask me this. And this is a song. So this is Isaiah. This is basically a song from the prophet Isaiah where he's prophesying what God would do based on what he has already done. Okay. Right? So when Isaiah says, you will keep in perfect peace, so he says God will keep in perfect peace. Mm-hmm. And he's referencing that because he knows that from proof because he's seen God do it. Right. And he's pulling from all these different examples. Okay. So the word breakdown, I'm like a stickler with words, right? Okay. So especially when you read the Bible, Because if you read the word out of context, you won't know its original meaning, right? Because some of the English variations of it is not what it initially meant.
Right.
Because the Old Testament was Hebrew and the New Testament is Greek.
Okay.
So it's like you got to be able to transition, and it could be a drastically different meaning
Gotcha.
once you get the word in.
Right.
So in Hebrew, perfect peace is shalom, shalom. Right? So it's a double emphasis, meaning complete, unshakable peace. So it's like double peace. Does that make sense? So it's peace in your mind, peace in your emotions, peace in your atmosphere. And then it says, whose minds are steadfast.
Right.
So steadfast means fixed, locked in, not drifting.
Right.
And so it's not drifting, it's focused on God, not on circumstances, not on feelings, not on fear.
Okay.
So it's like, if you don't focus on circumstances and you don't focus on fear and you stay locked in on God, you protect your peace. Right? So then it took me to, if you ever read Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill? It's really fascinating. So I always recommend the audiobook. So it's you familiar with Think and Grow Rich, right?
Yep.
So it's the same author.
Okay.
So in the book, Napoleon Hill asks the devil, how does he gain control over people? And the devil says, I cause people to drift.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because he knows,
Right.
the enemy knows that if you steadfast and you locked in,
Right.
he can't get you.
Right.
It's because the Bible said he seeks to get you and to kill, steal, and destroy, right? So it's like, if you're drifting, I got you. So then he defines drifting as the habit of going through life without having a definite major purpose, a definite aim or a plan. So Rachel and I was talking about yesterday, we were like, kids are typically join a gang or something like that because they don't have a definite major purpose. They don't have a chief aim.
Right.
They don't have a plan.
Right.
But this person who runs the gang seems more influential because they're clear on their mission. They're clear on their aim. So you'll get influenced.
Based off of somebody else's plan.
Yep. We see it with business owners all the time. Business owners, they'll have a clear, they're like, I'm locked in on this thing.
Right.
This is what we doing. And they'll go to a conference, like we were just talking about, a popular conference.
Yeah.
And you hear some guru talk about this new thing.
Yeah.
And now it totally derails your plan.
Right.
It totally derails what you've been doing that's working. And you start doing this because this person has a bigger microphone or a bigger platform, and they're saying that thing that you're doing that's working is dead, and now it takes you off. So it says in the book, it says, I control 98% of the people of the world by getting them to drift. So steadfast equals focused, locked in, grounded.
Okay.
Drifting equals aimless, anxious, tossed by the wind.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's good. Nah, I get you.
So and that reminds me of, like, even when it was on the when it was on the boat and it was a storm, and the disciples was like, "Hey, bro, how you sleep?" Jesus was on the boat sleep, and I was like, "Bro, how you sleep? Like we like about to die." And he was like, "Bro, why y'all don't got no faith?" And he spoke to the wind and was like, "Peace, be still," because it was like they got focused, they got distracted by the wind.
Right.
And it also ties into, and this is like, it also ties into when Peter was stepped out on the boat, out of the water, and he was focused on Jesus, and he was like, "Dang, I'm walking on water."
Right.
And it says the wind started blowing.
Right.
And then he started focusing on the wind, and he began to sink. He wasn't steadfast no more.
Right.
Does that make sense? He
Right.
wasn't steadfast. He wasn't locked in no more. He was
Right.
focused on the circumstances, right? So then it says, hold on one second. I'm just tying this all together.
I love when you get in the bag.
Yeah, I'm tying this all together.
Do your thing.
So the enemy's goal is to rob you of your peace, right? Jesus' mission is not to just give life, but abundant life. And God's promise is that if your mind is steadfast, if you're anchored, you're focused, you're locked in on Him, you'll experience perfect peace.
Yeah.
You already got peace,
Yeah.
but you got to be locked in to experience it.
Got you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And to go back to, like, you can have the winning hand.
But you got to be aware of it.
Yeah,
Like, you already
exactly.
got peace. Like,
Yeah.
you came here with peace.
Right.
Like, if you look at a child, children have no worries.
True.
They have peace until they learn how to start comparing themselves to each other, or until a parent start telling them to be realistic. All those things, right?
Right.
So it says. So then I wrote, now why will he keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast? Because they trust in you. Trust is the foundation of peace. So, like, if you aren't experiencing peace, it's an area where you're not trusting.
Yeah, that's good.
Does that make sense?
Good. That makes sense.
So it's like when you get on the flight, you got some people on the flight who ain't got no peace. You know, we get on the flight, we be on there, we chilling.
Right.
You watching a movie, you listening to something, you sleep, cause you what? You got peace.
Yep.
Right? But if you like, man, what if this thing?
Yeah.
So when I'm on the plane, I'm like, hey, we all gonna get there cause I'm on it.
Right. That's how I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
We all good. Everybody good. Right? So it's but because I trust that God is getting me there.
Yeah.
I got peace.
Yeah.
But it's those times when we aren't trusting. It's like if I'm not experiencing peace right now, where am I not trusting?
That's good.
So then it goes back to like your core identity. It's like I am a child of God. God got me covered. I have provision. So why am I worried about circumstances? Why am I worried about tariffs? Why am I worried about who's president? Why am I worried about these things? Because the kingdom economy supersedes like the world's economy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I'm not at peace, then I'm worried about something. And if I'm not at peace, I'm not present.
That's good.
Because if I'm not present in the moment, then I'm thinking about the future or I'm thinking about the past.
Yeah.
Then that robs you of your peace as well.
That's good.
If I'm thinking about the first or the 15th or this thing happening, it's like, no, I'm not present in this moment having this conversation with you. If I'm thinking about what I'm gonna say next or what you're gonna ask me next, now I'm out of peace because I'm thinking about all these other things.
Yeah, that's good. And I had like this philosophy, even when I'm teaching, it's like camera movements. I call it push and peas, where it's like push, there's a pull, and then there's a pan from left to right. God is trying to push us in the right direction.
Yep.
Oftentimes the enemy is pulling us and trying to persuade us to be distracted.
Yep.
But if we actually look in our surroundings, in our circumstance, we'll see that we're right where we're supposed to be. Regardless of what is actually shaking or moving us, it's all for our development.
100%.
So I feel you on that.
Let's make this super practical. Because I know I went Bible and I went all over. So make this super practical. So one way to protect your peace is to be present. So it's like when I'm thinking about the future, or I'm thinking about the past, I breathe. It's the number one way to 3 of those. 4 in, hold it 4 out.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, it's a black table.
Yep.
It's water. Present in the moment. I ain't thinking about what's going on at home, what I got. Present in the moment. Because the presence is the only time that exists.
Right.
Ain't no future, ain't no past. So like you protect your peace by staying in the, am I good right now? So like something you gotta tell yourself, bro, you're safe. Then you start going down this, you get that thought, you start chasing that thought and go down that. It's like you gotta be like, all right, bro. They call it your parasympathetic nervous system or something like that, right? So it's like, you're safe. You're actually good right now.
Yeah.
And somebody might be thinking about stressing about money. It's like, well, no, I actually got enough money right now. I'm good. I'm safe. And now I can operate from peace.
Yeah. That's good.
Practical. Breathe.
That's good. That's good.
Because like what will happen is when you tense up, because like if you're thinking about the first, future, or the past, and you start feeling anxious, you'll feel your breathing will actually shorten. Your chest will get tightened up, and you won't even be breathing. So like sometimes you be working out, you're worked out, and your trainer be like, bro, breathe.
Yeah.
Because you like trying to push the thing out, and you done tightened up. It's like you got to breathe.
Right.
And you like,
yep.
And now the weight becomes easier. And I think that's crazy. It's like the weight becomes easier. So it's like when you're breathing and you're present, the weight of, especially when you got a spot.
Yeah.
We got the ultimate spot.
Hey, for sure.
It becomes easier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, breathe.
Yeah.
You're good. You're safe.
That's good.
You don't need anything.
That's good. How do you, and that's good. I want to sit in that for a second because that's so good. Even when we think about being safe, like oftentimes we don't develop what is the sense of safety. So like what's a safe space for you? Like where do you retreat to when things are overwhelming? If it's in business, if it's family, like what does safety look like for you?
So I've had to learn to be able to, wherever I go, I have to create a safe space. So I don't need it because like wherever I go, God is in me, right? So it's like God is peace, God is love, God. So if I'm going into a room and it's chaotic, I bring peace to that room, because God is with me, right? So it's like I don't necessarily got to go to a space because if I had to make it let's say it's my closet, like it's a physical closet. If I'm out, Now I'm dependent on this closet to get back into peace.
Right.
Now, one thing that I do like to do to like refuel or recharge is I just go in my room and like watch TV or something like that. Because I like watch TV, I'll just binge watch something and just kind of chill.
Yeah.
To kind of like refuel. But it's not like a certain place where I anchor that I'm like, I gotta get here to like realign.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I can sit there and do a breathing exercise.
Yep.
And be like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
Or I might be in the car with the kids and the kids done like,
Yep.
took me there.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I need to breathe.
Yeah. Because we've had like instances where you was almost about to miss a flight. And man, we was sitting at the gate and I don't know who I probably had E with me at the time.
Yeah,
and
it was E
I'm
with
like, he's like, I just got to the airport. I'm like, we're boarding now.
Yep.
Doors are about to close.
Yep.
And as I'm saying these things, I'm like,
doors are about to close.
I'm like, I'm sitting here in the threshold.
Yep.
And that's so deep. I'm sitting in the threshold. I'm telling him like he's right down the way. You're literally still going through TSA.
Yep.
And it's like I know the journey that you have to get through, and it's like it's amazing to me because there are people that are in the threshold for you.
Yep.
And it's like God is in the threshold for a lot of us through all the circumstances and situations. And it's like if we only trust.
Yep.
And even walking me through that process because I'm like, bro, I don't even see you. I still don't see you yet.
Yep. But you know I'm coming.
I'm not. So it's like you can't see him. He told me he coming down the hallway. It's like help me understand. Like even going there, I thought we were going to miss the flight.
Yeah.
I'm like this will be a first time for the both of us. And it's like, but as I'm working, it's like my faith was working.
Yeah.
And it's like I didn't see you.
Yeah.
But like even through your thought process, like what was going on through that?
I think that's one of those things where it's like, I hate running through the airport.
I feel you.
And the airport is like, it's one of those situations where you really got to surrender because you got no control.
Yeah.
You have zero control. The only thing you can control is being there at a certain time. And even then you don't got control because you can get there 2 hours early and there's something be going on at TSA and you still can't, it's still something that holds you up, right? Like you remember one time I think we got there and TSA was closed.
Yeah.
We was coming from somewhere and we got there and it was like TSA closed. And we was like, what do you mean TSA closed? And it was like, and now we had to go get in a long line and the whole thing. But again, you gotta just be in surrender and be like, hey, all right, God, if I don't make this flight, it's some reason I'm not making this flight that even I don't understand right now. So I surrender this to you. I submit this to you. And I just release control. Otherwise, I'm just going to be stressed out. And now your chest is all tight.
Yep.
Somebody else might say something crazy. Or you step on, or like it turned into a whole nother thing. Or you become snappy because this situation that you wanted to control. And I think one book that really helped me with that was like The Untethered Soul. And he just talks about like just being untethered.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yes, you want this to be this way.
Right.
But it's like, it might just not be that way. And you got to just be untethered from it not being that way.
Yeah.
Or yes, you want your kids to be a certain type of way. Or yes, you want your kids to get a certain grade. Or yes, you want your wife to respond or affirm you in a certain way. But it just may not.
Right.
And are you going to let that affect you or what?
Can you talk about surrender in motion? I've heard you talk about this concept before. Tell me a little bit.
Yeah, it's crazy you said that because I was thinking about it a little while ago. So surrender in motion is you actively doing your part to go towards a goal or an outcome while it also being released to God and being okay if it doesn't work out the way you want to work. So I think the best analogy of it is like farming, right? So it's like you plant seeds. A farmer plants their seeds. They do the thing every day. And then they go in the house. And they know a harvest is coming. But they don't have control over the weather though.
Right.
Right. So if it's real hot one summer, and then let's say a crop get burned up, or a flood comes, that could affect the harvest, right? But it's like you only have control over this, right? So to make it super practical, one of the things that I had to implement was like at the end of an event or at the end of my day, I'm like, all right, God, I've sown faithfully. It's on you for the harvest, and let me rest in that.
Yeah.
Right. So just me doing my thing. So like, because when I say surrender and rest, I don't want people to think that means you don't do nothing and you leave everything up to God. I believe we're in partnership with God. So it's like we have a part to do, and you're literally in partnership.
Yeah.
And I also believe that God works in the past tense. Like everything, like God has already moved. God just waiting on us to move to get in alignment with what he's already done.
For sure.
So how do you balance that surrender emotion piece? I was talking to a client this week, and he was telling me how he can get real obsessed with like checking his analytics, checking the numbers, like what is it gonna be? He's reading into every little detail.
Yep.
So how do you balance, measuring progress with that surrender emotion concept and doing your part in releasing? Like, what's the balance with that?
So great question. So I think super practical is like scheduling time to check analytics, right? Because you hitting refresh on the analytics doesn't improve the analytics. So you got to give it enough time. So if we use it, because like when you look at analytics at any given moment, it's a snapshot. So we really got to zoom out and have enough. It's called statistically significant data. Like you got to have enough data to make a decision. Hey, real quick, I know we're going deep right now. However, if you're watching this and you're a business owner, you want to take your business to the next level, you want to scale your business and have a business that can run without you, without running you in the ground, and you want to generate more leads, more clients, or you want to put the systems in place so your business can run like a well-oiled machine, make sure you check in the description section of this video. We got a ton of free resources for you. Stop right now, go ahead and get those resources, and let's get right back into the show. So I was talking to a client the other day, and he was looking at his ads, and he was like, I got 10 clicks on these ads and I only got 1 opt-in. I was like, well, first of all, 10 clicks is not enough to make a decision on, number one. Number two, when you first launch a new ad, these platforms like Meta and so forth, they send what they call bot clicks because they need to make sure that your site, your page, and what you're saying and all that stuff is compliant. And the only way for them to know that is to what? Click on it to go like review it. Now, some of those clicks will show up in your dashboard on Facebook. So, but those clicks aren't your clicks though. Those clicks don't really count because they're like making sure your stuff is good to go before they approve it. So I'm like, bro, that's just not enough clicks. So like we might swap this person and they may say they did launch a new campaign, they had a call with somebody, and they're like, man, they're like nobody ain't buying. And I'm like, what do you mean nobody's not buying? And they're like, man, I just feel like I'm not getting good leads. We need to turn the ads off. And I'm like, well, how many people have you talked to? And they'll be like, 3. I'm like, you haven't talked to enough people. Right? So we got to have enough data, and we schedule the checking of the data. And are we looking at this data over the last 24 hours, last 30 days, last 60 days, last 90 days? So that's why I talked about Forecast Friday. And then Monday, my Maestro Monday, is like having scheduled time to like check the data and make decisions, based on that data versus just being so reactive. So it's like on the scale. When you get on the scale is a snapshot. Yeah. And it's like if you're on a weight loss journey, let's say you're 200 pounds and you want to get to 150 pounds. Yeah. You're going to go through a series where you might go from 150, let's say you go from 200, let's say you lose 10 and you hit 190. Something might happen where you pop back up to 193. Right? So when you look at that scale and you zoom out, you done went through a variation. Then you might go from 193 to 192 to 193. Especially if you're looking at the scale every day.
For sure.
Right? You look at the scale every day, it can freak you out. Yeah. So now you're watching this thing every day. So now you're like 190, then let's say over 7 days, you go down to, let's say you're 186. And then something happened. Let's say you get on it, you got some water weight or whatever, and you pop up at 198 or whatever. But you see how the numbers are? So we got to like zoom out and detach from the numbers and like have like some set times where you like check the data. So for example, on my fitness journey that I'm on, IB and Bella was like, take the power away from the scale and stop checking it so frequently and just check it on the days where it's scheduled to check the data, which is like every 2 weeks or every week, every 2 weeks, depending on what's on the app. And only check it those days. Take the power from the scale. So it's like with your numbers in business, schedule the time to look at it because all these different things are like snapshots. You might look at your bank account today and it's like, man, this thing way lower than I want it to be. But that's just a snapshot in time. Tomorrow, you might just have some deposits because when they process the merchant account, it take a minute. It might take 2 or 3 days depending on what merchant account you use to hit. So you might get an influx of cash, but like this might freak you out this day because it was a snapshot of when you look.
And that's good because, like, how many people's identity is tied to the scale?
100%.
Or to the business?
Or the bank account.
Yeah.
Most times it is.
Yeah.
Most times their identity is. So it's like, they're like, well, I got X net worth.
Yeah.
And now their identity is tied to that net worth. And then when their net worth takes a hit, they're like, dang, I ain't an XYZ no more. But it's like, well, that was never your identity anyway. It was just a number.
That's good.
That you didn't even have control over.
In the first place.
Yep.
Right. Who came up with that number? You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yep.
So
does that make sense, Rachel?
Yes.
Yeah. So even when you think about, like, boom, if business was gone tomorrow, would your identity take a hit?
Yep.
And what would be different about you if the business is gone tomorrow?
Well, that's a great question because I went through a season when I went through the pruning season, like I was telling you about. I was like, dude, I was like, if I did it, because I went through a series of like, okay, God, like, am I supposed to be doing this? Like, is this what this means? Like, I ain't supposed to be doing this no more?
Right.
Like, you know, like for real. Like, I think Nipsey said, I went through all the motions.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I think, because Rachel asked me yesterday, she was like, what is it that we miss or that we don't see about you? And you asked me earlier. It's like, dude, most people don't realize, Nipsey got this quote where he says, I went through all the motions. The only thing is I just didn't quit. Right? So it was like, though I went through, like, bruh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be totally transparent.
Yeah,
I went through a season where I was like, and the enemy, like, bro, I went through a season where I was like, and I don't think I never shared nobody before. And I was like, am I supposed to be doing this? And then I literally was like, our life insurance, we're good. So I was like, if this was going on and I wasn't here no more, my family will still be good based on the life insurance. So does the life insurance like really legit pay out and all that? So I'm like going through all that. So the enemy is like, okay, I got him.
Wonder.
So I got him. Oh, he think about, let me really play on this.
Right.
Because if I can get him to take himself out, I can get him out. I can get that piece off the chessboard.
Yeah.
Because of the season I was in, and there was like this crazy spiritual warfare that was going on in that time. And it was like, it wasn't nothing I experienced before. And I couldn't even put words to it.
Yeah.
It was just like you wake up in the morning and like your mind's just racing. And you're like, dang, what if we lose it all? What if this? 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 What if? What if? And that's sometimes when you really got to dig in. You know, that's when I was doing, because you had reached out and I gave you that devotional, like in the wilderness.
Save me.
I was legit in the wilderness because it was just so unfamiliar. And Pastor D was like, bro, it's like, it just don't look like. He was like, bro, you didn't get here by mistake, right? Like you got here with skills and he's like, you didn't get here by mistake. He was like, bro, it just looks different for you in this season.
Right.
Like you still win at the end of the day. So it was like going through all that and like my identity was in question. It was like, dang, if I didn't do this no more, who would I be?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And sometimes we're not even able to identify who we are because we don't even know the season that we're in.
You don't know the season you're in. You ain't discern the season.
So it's like the person can get lost just by not knowing the direction that you're going.
100%.
How are you supposed to operate in this pruning season or the wilderness and when you're trying to scale the business?
Yep. And the pruning means that you're winning because the Bible says that God prunes that which is fruitful. So the fact that you're in the pruning season means that you're fruitful.
Yeah.
Because you have to get pruned first to continue to produce fruit. It's like a farmer got to go out and like prune the plants so they can actually produce more fruit. And then I also saw that eagles also go through a similar season called molten, M-O-L-T-E-N, where the feathers are like all rough and it looks bad. They call it molten season. They can't fly as good and they kind of got to shut off to themselves. And then I was like, one day I was walking up the stairs to the office and I heard God say clearly, like, you're in your butterfly season. And I was like, I went and like did some research on it and like looked at caterpillars are always on the ground. They're always moving. They're always eating. They're always trying to do more. It takes a lot for them to go from here to here. It takes a lot of effort for a caterpillar. Yeah. Right. And then you go into a cocoon. In the cocoon, it seems like there's no movement. Yeah. There's no momentum. You're shut off. You don't know what's going on. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So you're going through that cocoon phase. Yeah. And that was that pruning season. And then when you go into butterfly, you're soaring, spirit-led. You can go. Think about it. A butterfly can go from here to here way faster than the caterpillar. Right. Without effort. It just kind of floats. Right. Spirit. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
But it's like going through that.
That's good.
I know y'all have talked about this, but our viewers, we don't know. Tell us a little more about the pruning season. What did that look like for you? What was going on? How did you identify that that's what was happening? Did you know in the moment, or was it a retrospective?
That's good.
That's a great question.
That's a great question.
So, all right, so here's what happened. So basically, we had several years. Let's take it all the way back to like before COVID. So before COVID, like I want to say, because COVID happened when 2020. So I would say right before, and I think that they made the initial announcement like February, March, something like that. So we had our whole model, our whole year plan was around events. We was gonna do a quarterly 1-day event, which fed into a 3-day intensive. So we did the first 1 day, it did great. Fed into a 3-day one. We did the 3-day one. Then we did another 1-day event, right? Went great. We sold a 3-day. Before we could fulfill on the next 3-day, COVID happened. And you know, we like, this ain't really nothing. This gonna be fine. It's gonna be like, they tripping.
Yep.
Right? And then 2 years later, now, we had our strategic planning call, and Bianca was like, operation director, she was like, what are we gonna change? What do we need to do? Because of COVID, you can't do events. Because remember at that point, there was like only a certain amount of people can be in the thing. You can't have that many people in the room, like the whole night. We did an event, and like people online was like going crazy.
They
on
were
you remember that?
talking
Because we did an in-person event, and people was like, we weren't supposed to have that many people in the room. It wasn't like, it was like 30 people, 40 people, but we had already booked the event. God didn't tell us don't do it. So we did it, and people on the internet, they was like attacking us.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, so through that, so we got through that. So we shifted it was like, all right, let's do the 3-day event. Let's do it virtually. We did it virtually. It went great. So we had like, and before that, we was having multiple years of just like growth over growth over growth over growth over growth over growth. And while we thought, I feel like we had the Midas touch. Like everything we was doing was just working. And we've been doing this for a minute, but I haven't been doing it long enough to have experienced cycles, like a downward cycle. Yeah. I've been doing this. We've been doing it for a minute, but it's like in the grand scheme of things, we still babies in business.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The internet will make you think that you that dude because you're making a few million or whatever the case may be, but it's like in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. I saw a video earlier to do with like, he was in private equity. And he was like, what's the most money you made in a year? You know, those clips be going around. My man was like, he was like, man, it's like 100 million. It wasn't a big business. Right? It's a different conversation. It's levels, right? Yeah. So, but anyway, we was just having year over year. I'm like, oh, you know, we killing it. It's never gonna stop. So then that's when our team was growing like crazy. We just hiring. We just doing all different type of stuff. So thank God I'm not super flashy. I wasn't buying all these different cars and all different type of stuff. Yeah. So we went through one of those cycles. Yeah. Right? It's a necessary cycle. So we went through a cycle, and one of the things I realized was that we had topped out our TAM. We essentially, because in business, it's kind of an advanced concept, but they call it jumping the S curve. Okay. Right. So in business, you start a business and you like go through this S curve process. So we saw Netflix do it. So Netflix started out, it was sending stuff in the mail, and then they went into, and then think about it. Their S curve was they were sending physical stuff, movies and stuff, to you in the mail. Right. That was their business model, and it worked. And then on the S curve, it begins to go down. If you don't jump the S curve before you go out of business, you go out of business. Yeah. So they jumped the S curve because Netflix evolved to, think about it, Blockbuster, their model was selling physical tapes and so forth. Yep. They were winning. Netflix went to them to try to get Blockbuster to buy them. Blockbuster didn't see the vision. They thought they were good. So they didn't jump the S curve. Got you. And we saw what Netflix, what happened to Blockbuster. Yep. Netflix jumped the S curve, and then they went into a boom. You know what we know Netflix as. Right. And then over time, we saw Netflix was just doing just regular movies that we all knew of, and their new S curve was what? Original content. So now they started doing their own movies. So that was their new S curve. Yeah. And now they're into streaming. So they stream like WWE, and they're doing some stuff with NFL. That's their new S curve. So as you look at businesses and you watch them you see them continuously jump the S curve, and those who don't. So we were on the back end of our S curve, and then a white buddy of mine, he pointed out to me, he was like, bro, you got to understand. He was like, in what y'all do, he was like, you're the category king of client attraction. He was like, you served thousands and thousands of clients, like enrolled clients. He was like, bro, you got to think about it. He was like, if you look at one of your white counterparts who do what you do, and they talk about like their level of scale, he was like, they're able to scale at that level because their TAM is bigger than yours, their total addressable market, because they serve white people and black people, but just white people alone, it's more of them.
Right.
He was like, if you look at you mostly serve black people. And he was like, you don't have as many. Does that make sense? So he was like, even if you look at, he brought the numbers down, bro. He was like, if you look at America, he was like, it's about 3 million. I think at that time it was about 3 million businesses in the U.S. And he was like, black people are like 16% of the United States. And he was like, if you just do those same numbers of 3 million businesses, if you just use 16%, that's about 300 or something thousand, or what, I forget the exact number, black business owners. He was like, that's your TAM. And he was like, you're probably only going to get a small percentage of that. And he was like, you there already.
Yeah.
So he was like, it's time for you to jump the S curve. So I'm in the middle of that. He said, you're experiencing early symptoms of S curve, of not jumping the S curve.
Bro, to have someone be able to see that for you, but
he was like, you're experiencing, he was like, most business owners, they don't catch this early enough.
Right.
So it's like, you have to change your whole model, right? You're beyond just coaching.
Yeah.
You're beyond just working with coaches and helping them start. You're beyond that part, but you got to see that. And it was like, you can't compare you and your white counterpart because they just, quite frankly, have a bigger audience to serve than you. So it's more opportunity there. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
So through that, I'm like, dang, I'm learning. So this is all new insights. So I'm going through that whole thing. Meanwhile, our team is a scale. We got this big team. I'm trying to hold on to what we got. And then you go into this phase of like grief where because you can go through a state of grief where you grieve previous seasons. So I heard, I think Dr. Kirk said this. He was like, you can grieve living things. So it's like, you can be in one season, but you grieve this season. You grieve a previous season. So I was in this season, right, of we're kind of recalibrating. What does the business model look like now? How do we adjust? We got a multiple 6-figure per month overhead. We got 40-some people on the team. The team is like causing havoc. Our enrollment team at the time, my sales director, she was going through cancer, right? But me being me, most people would have been like, are we going to let you go and like let you do your thing? Because she was like going through chemo and all that. But it's like, I ain't really built like that. So I was like, all right, let's work through this. We believe in healing, all the things. Meanwhile, our main salesperson at the time, he's like, main salesperson. So he talking crazy to the sales team, the setters and all that. He telling them, bro, don't put people on my calendar, they ain't ready, blah, blah. So they got hassle and stuff going on in that. So that's coming to me. Now I'm being pulled into that. So I end up just like, hey, we just need to let him go. And then some people are like, bro, why would you let your number one salesperson go? I'm like, well, I got to. Like, otherwise it's a cancer that's toxic in the entire business. Yeah. So I had to let that go, even though it may not logically make sense. Some people were like, let me just let him do what he want to do to continue to make the money, but that wasn't healthy. Yeah. So so that happened. And then fast forward, we ended up letting the other stuff go, and we was like, okay, we need to rebuild the sales team. So I had a conversation with our sales director, and I was like, hey, because at this time she was getting paid a base plus a percentage of sales. So I had a conversation with her. I was like, hey, since we're rebuilding the sales team and you're going to be taking some calls, do you think it's fair to continue to pay you this base plus a thing, or should we just do straight commission? Since you don't have a team to manage at this point. Right. So should we continue to pay you this base management thing? Right. So we came to an agreement that it was cool to just do the commission. Right. It's like, cool, for a season. A week later, if that, she texted me and was like, hey, I want to have a conversation when you get a second. I was like, cool. So we got on the phone. We had just wrapped up an event. We had a conversation, and she was like, "Hey, I feel like my season here at the company is up."
Ooh, yeah.
Right?
Ooh,
She's like, "I feel like my season here is up." So I was like, "All right, cool." So we had a conversation about it. She was like, "Yeah, we did agree on it, but I just feel like I just want to do some other things." Because like, here's what happened. We had a strategic planning call, and she was like, I asked her about it. I was like, "Hey, what's your vision for the next X amount of time?" And then she mentioned, I had sent an email, and she was like, work on a book, do this, do some other things. I'm like, cool. So I just want to know everybody's vision all the time. I asked you the whole nine. So on the strategic planning call, it's just leadership. So I'm like, hey, I know on your vision for the next X amount of years, you mentioned this, but it didn't really mention anything about your role here.
Yeah.
Right? So she was like, yeah, I just want to do some different things, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, in the midst of you writing your book and doing all the things, are you still going to be able to do that and rebuild a sales team? And she took that as I was saying that she can't do other things. So at least that's what she said. That was the reason she was like, okay, I just need to step away, completely.
Right.
So we went through that. I jumped back in this, and she also was like, I'll stay until X amount of time to recalibrate stuff. And this is still end up because I was going. That's when I was going to Nigeria.
Okay.
I was going to Nigeria. I was going somewhere. I forget exactly where I was going. Morocco or something. I forget. So I think it was Morocco. So she ended up leaving early because I was like, hey, I'm gonna be gone for a week. I'm gonna be in Morocco. It's like a 12-hour time difference. I ain't gonna be able to do sales management. I ain't gonna be able to do none of these things. I was like, but she was like, I'm gonna see it all the way through to things, get straight, and I'm gonna leave gracefully.
Right.
That didn't happen.
Oh.
She left early.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, cool. So I was in Morocco, and we was on this bridge, and I looked down, like, because it's like a mountain, and you look down, and it's like, I always thought, like, in the valleys, it's like dry. That's what I thought. But I looked, and it was like green in the valley area, and I was like, I just heard like the Holy Spirit say, and I made a post about it. It was like, even in the valley, it's still greenery, it's still vegetation, it's still produce, like even in the valley, right? And I read, even in the valley, right? So again, you got payroll, you got team, and y'all already know how important loyalty is to me. It's very important to me. So I'm like, am I letting the team down? Am I letting this down? These people got people they need to feed. They're dependent on these checks. All these different things.
Right.
But I didn't realize. I'm still trying to figure out what do I do? What do I do to fix this? How do I fix this? How do I fix this? Right. So I'm investing in this. I'm dropping this money here. I'm dropping this money here. Hiring this coach. Hiring this thing. Joining this. Buying this thing. Because I'm trying to figure out like how do I fix this? And it's like I had to come to realize like there is no fixing this. The only fix to this is submitting to the season you're in. Discerning the season, submitting to the season, and understanding that pruning is part of the process. You just haven't been in business long enough to understand. So I heard my guy Keith Cunningham say something one time. He was like baby business owners. He was like, when they go through a downward cycle, their response to a downward cycle is to get bigger.
Yeah.
Their response is growth in a downward cycle. Yep. He was like, established, mature business owners know that in a downward cycle, the first thing you do is you get smaller.
That's good.
I was like,
that's good.
Does that make sense? He was like, you get smaller. He was like, but we trying to get bigger. We trying to grow in a pruning season. It's a downward cycle. And you got to realize that if you look at the stock market, it shows you that business owners go through up and down cycles. Yeah. But you like, no, I ain't going to go through that. Right. But it's like, nah, bro, if you in this game, that's part of the game. Right. Like if you play basketball, injury is part of it. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you got to go through those cycles when you're up and you have those up seasons. I talked to my other mentor, and he been in business longer than I've been alive. And I was like, bro, I was like, was every season up and to the right for you? And he was like, no. He was like, you had the down years. But he was like, the down seasons is what makes you. He was like, you don't create success in the up seasons. You create success in the down seasons. Boy. Because those are the seasons that make you. Yeah. He was like, but in the up seasons, you got to make sure you're doing right with your money. Right. So the down seasons don't take you out. Right. So thank God I ain't out here doing all the different things. So we were still good cash-wise throughout those seasons while we were navigating it. Right. So I got to go through the logical insight from the OGs and then the scripture where it talks about pruning and I'm going to be good anyway and you know, all the things, and really like navigating that and just understanding why. Okay, pruning is part of the process. Business has down cycles and up cycles. I just hadn't been in business long enough to understand like it's a whole nother level to this.
That's good.
Does that make sense?
That's good.
Does that make sense? Was that clear enough?
Yeah. I have more questions.
Okay, yes, let's do it.
So I'm hearing the pruning with the team.
Yep.
What else was lost in that season?
So I think even the better side of it that I'm curious about is like, even in the pruning, I want to talk about the wilderness.
Okay.
'Cause when it got wild.
Okay.
When the thoughts was like, haven't even had this thought before.
Okay.
So the pruning is the stripping.
Yeah.
The wilderness is where it's like, it's a little bit of confusion. It's a little bit of unknown.
Yeah.
I think is that what you asking more about the wilderness season he was talking about earlier?
Yeah. And just also like both. Like on the business side, I'm hearing the team is getting smaller.
Yeah.
Right. Intentionally.
Yeah.
And I want details.
Yeah. So the team. So all right. So tell me. So what details? Where you may go? So I can.
How much money did you lose?
So we did. So we went. So here's the beautiful thing about the money. We didn't necessarily. So let's say we went. So like what happened was, let's say we was having, as we were making more money, and this kind of where I was getting lost in the sauce as well, right? So it's like as we were making more money, it was costing us more money to make the money. But even then, we was just doing more of it. And these are like in the up seasons, right? So I'm like, scale is just doing more. This was my flawed understanding of scale. Scale is doing more, getting bigger, growing faster, right? So it was like, as we're growing, let's just spend more on ads. Let's do this. And I forget who I heard say this, but it's like, it talks about money can make you stupid. Because like you overlook things, you get sloppy, right? So it's like as the money, as the revenue is growing, the expenses are growing at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. So you might be we're making 7 figures a month or multiple 6 figures a month, but you spending multiple 6 figures of overhead as well.
Right.
At the same time. Right. So regardless if you have a dip this month, you still got this overhead.
Yeah.
So it's like it's all of that. Right. And then when you go through, then we're like, let's just push it. Let's do a bigger event. And then we did the September event, the What the Black Coach Summit. And we was like, this is a big event. It looks great. And it was like almost $200,000 to do the event. And it was like, this looks great.
Yeah.
But it's like, this didn't really make sense.
Yeah. The event was fire.
The event was fire.
Yeah.
But it's like everybody made money but the company. Right? It was like, this ain't really make sense to do. So I was like, okay, we need to scale the events back. Now, in that, you go through, dang, if we scale the events back and the events get smaller, what are people going to think?
Oh, yeah.
Are people going to think,
we ain't doing it like
that? You start going into that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Are they going to think the business going to business, or you think we're going bad? So I had to get in front of it and communicate, here's why we're scaling the events back, right? Because it didn't make sense. We didn't service the clients how we wanted to service them, because it's 400 people in the room. You can't really create real transformation because people can hide, right? So it's that. I had to have some tough conversations with some individuals like, hey, we're going to have to adjust your salary for a season, right? That's one of the hardest conversations you're ever going to have.
Yeah.
Like, so do you really, that's why I tell people, like, you say you want this entrepreneurship thing, right? You want what it looks like. Are you really ready to have a conversation with somebody who's doing great in their role? They're not doing anything wrong, but you got to talk to them about like paying them less.
Yeah.
Like, do you really want to have that conversation?
Right.
Are you really ready to have that conversation?
Right. Yeah. And authentic, like transparent moment in the conversations that we had. I think one of the things that we didn't necessarily talk about is when he was growing and shifting in his mindset, he was so on go mode, he almost forgot to cast a vision to the team. And it was one of those things where, hey, bro, you told me that you want to fill up the Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yep.
And I'm thinking we got to get a bigger team, more equipment, this, that, and the third. And it's like, after having that revelation, it's just like, if you don't cast it to the rest of the people, we're stuck here moving in a different direction. And it's like, now we're butting heads. Yeah.
Because it goes back to like this great point. Because it goes back to like the role of the CEO and the founder, right? It's like you're always casting and communicating vision. but I was so in the weeds
Yeah.
trying to fix this, I didn't come up to like, what is the vision for it? I'm just like, right now, I'm trying to fix this now. So, cause like to bro's point, our vision, we had slides for it and the whole thing. I was like, we want to fill the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and do client events there. First, we want to do State Farm Arena, like 80,000 people. Yep. That was we casting that vision, right? And that was the vision. But then it's like, how much of that was ego-driven? How much of that was really what we're supposed to be doing? That type of thing, right? So I'm so in the weeds on trying to fix this joint and see what's going on. It's like bro said, I didn't recalibrate. So now I'm talking about scaling the events back, and now it's like, that ain't what you said.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So great point. Yeah. So
and then also we still listen to our leader in respect to, we hear you, but we don't understand. And that's how a spirit of confusion can creep in, because we're on two different pages, totally. Like, you told us this on last month, but now we're here. I get you, and it's like, it's hard to fully commit to somewhere where there's some confusion. It's just like, I don't want to be blind in where this is going when I was so clear in the past season.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's so interesting now to have this conversation, because it's like, he can apologize. He can talk about, oh, this is where I was at. I just think that as we're moving forward, the beautiful thing about it is like, this is a season that I got to learn from. And it's like, now I know how to better navigate and manage my conversations and relaying the information. So 100%. It's a beautiful piece. Yeah.
And that's the learning, right? So it's like, I was talking to Dre one time, my business partner, and Dre was like, who better than us to go through this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, who better than us? Because like, if we're going to be advising business owners, you got to know.
Yeah.
Right? You got to be able to, I got to be able to speak to that.
Yeah.
I can't be like, all we knew is to win the seasons. It's like, no, bro.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I understand. Right? I understand when you got the weight. It seems like the weight of the world on you.
Right.
With your team, your family. How do you communicate this to your family without sending your family into a panic? Right?
Because you got people livelihood.
You got people livelihood.
That's a different weight. Like, it goes to his heart. It's like, I'm responsible for what people eat and how they eat and how they take care of their families. And he's thinking about that from the back end. So like, I can understand why he's so minute in the weeds. And it's just like, God, I'm glad God did it, because the miscommunication was, we're so used to him being crystal clear that questioning him right now, asking certain questions, is just like, maybe he's going to reveal it to us later.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he's actually going through something, but because he's used to operating such at a high level, we don't know that there's something not wrong, but it's something different that's happening right now. And it's happening in the meetings. It's happening right in front of our face. It's happening within the content. It's happening in the messaging. We're seeing the differences, but it's like, I guess we'll eventually get told what's happening.
Yeah.
So
in my communication style ain't really like, hey guys, this is what I got going on. I need help. Like, that ain't how I move, right?
Nope.
My move is like, I'm a high D.
Yeah.
It's like, my move is fix it. I eventually like talked to Vanessa about it a little bit. And like, her thing was like, all right, so what I need to do? Do I need to pick up more hours? Do I need to do this? I'm like, well, no, I didn't share this with you for you to do anything. I'm just sharing this.
Right.
Does it make sense? Because I just been carrying it for a year plus.
It was a year before you talked to her about it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I was like in the midst of it, like really working. Like, so me and Dre had a conversation. Me and Dre had a heart-to-heart, my business partner. And he was like, bro, I mean, because it's like being in this state where you like feel like a failure, right? Because things ain't working the way you want it to work, right? And bro, he was talking one day, and he was like, bro, like, you don't have to save us, bro. He was like, you did right by us, bro. He was like, when we had seasons, when we had the up seasons, year over year over year, he was like, we're getting raises, all the things, right? He was like, you did right by us, bro. He was like, we're just going through this season now. Like, you don't got to save us, bro. Like, we good.
Yep. Yep.
Right? But it's like, you ain't think, I'm like, no, I need to fix this because it's dependent on me. Like, even when I was in the streets, I was like, when it was a drought, it's like, I got to figure out how to get these things in.
Got to be the one.
I got to get these things in because my team, we got to eat. We need these bags in.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I'm all around the city. Who got them in? We need to get them because, all right, if I don't get them in, we ain't going to eat.
Yep.
So what transformation, what was the process for you? How long did it take? What things did you do? What tools did you use to be able to finally accept that? Or did you ever accept it?
So it was a lot of solitude and not to sound cliche, but it was like in the word. It was like a lot of time in the word, listening to worship music. It was like I had to go back to the source and get deeper and deeper into because it wasn't nothing nobody else could do. It wasn't a thing for me to do. It wasn't a new marketing strategy. It wasn't a new offer. It wasn't a new work more hours.
Yeah.
It wasn't none of that. It was like I literally had to get recalibrated.
He was becoming a new person. And I think even being a fly on the wall, I remember certain conversations you and Crystal were having where it's just like, and I love this quote, it's not about doing more, you know what I'm saying? It's just about getting closer.
Yep.
And in his solitude, the closer was like getting closer to God, not closer to figuring this thing out. And it was like, it was big for him because like now I'm starting to notice in conversations, like you talking more about God than you are strategy. You're talking more about the word than you are like what you should be doing in your business.
Yeah.
And it's like, something's happening and bro, and I'm getting a chance to see it transpire. I don't know what you had going on, or what shook this loose in you.
Yeah.
But it was necessary because overall it's making you, not to say that you were a bad person before, but it's making you a better, wholesome person to where now the things that people are questioning and wondering about you is like, he's talking about the word, he's talking about this, he's showing his family, he's talking about the word again. And it's like, no, we're not just talking about marketing and how we can help you and how we can serve. It's like, what's happening?
Yeah, it's the holistic thing. And then I in that, I was like, I started to realize that a couple things. So it's like, I started to see things that was kind of confirming like where I was, right? And then it was like, and this is more recent on the back end, but it's like you understand, so you're like, all right, so first I was like, dang, did God use me to build this platform to eventually start talking more about the kingdom anyway? Was this the whole setup, right? Number two, I started understanding different concepts. Like even I'm reading this book now called Falling Upward. Okay. It's by Richard Rohr. And he talks about the first half and the second half of life, right? And he basically talks about, and it was like not even a numerical standpoint. It was like the second half of life is part of that is realizing that there is a second half of life. Where he's like the first half, you're building this container where you're trying to create your identity, you're trying to do all these different things, you're chasing out the status and all these different things. The second half is like meaning, fulfillment, and another concept from a book is called the second mountain. So it's like the first mountain in life is about money, meaning, and the money, status, all those things. And it was like the second mountain is about fulfillment, meaning, that type of stuff, right? Yeah. So I'm like, oh, and then you realize that things had went so fast, like that run we had was like in my 30s, like early 30s. I'm like, dang, when I look back and I look at all we did in our 30s, I was like, oh, when you zoom out, you're like, oh, this was par for the course. Because we had a crazy run for like 10 years. Did you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was time for a recalibration.
For sure.
Does that make sense? So we had to have a recalibration because if it would have just continued to be that, would I have had this realization of rest and operating from a different place?
Right.
And because now I have this message to communicate to other entrepreneurs. And then guess what? As I start having this conversation about rest and 4-hour work days and systems and all the family, all these different types. When I start talking about that more specifically, not about just getting clients and making $1 million, business owners was like, this is different.
This is different.
But I like it.
Yeah.
Because it was like, this is what I've been thinking. And it was like, so many people talk about just hustle and grind and 24/7 and blah, 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 blah. It was like, I haven't heard people talking about this. And it was like, this is what we need. And it was like, this is what we need specifically from you because you're an OG and a pioneer in this space. And I never saw myself like that because, again, I always been so locked in on doing the work. I never saw how the market viewed me in that respect.
Because the beautiful thing about it is that your results were backing the way that you were moving. So it was cool to see bro wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. He does this, he does that, and then this is how he structures his meetings. So it's just like being able to move and navigate through that was a big thing, but your results was like, well, if you want to make this, if you want to do this, like your results were backing the work that you were putting in that season.
You got to hit it.
Yeah, so it was like seeing that transition is like, okay, I kind of thought that this was something I can do.
Yeah.
But the example that I was seeing, the coach that was speaking into my life at the time wasn't doing it this way.
Yeah.
And it's not that we can't do it a different way, but because you weren't doing it or you weren't telling them to do it in this manner, it's like almost like I didn't know I could do it that way.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Does that answer the question? I know you got some more in a lot there. Go ahead.
My final question about this, I think, is what did you think was happening during that time, and what do you know now was actually happening?
I thought, in that time, I literally thought the plane was crashing. I never been on the plane when it's like, but I seen TV and it's like, I literally thought the plane was crashing. I literally was like, what is happening? Like, are we about to die? Like literally, like I said earlier, like regression can feel like dying. I literally was like, what is going on? Like, it's like the death of the business, I'm dying, identity is dying, like all the things, right? And in that time, I started realizing, and what I realized was that God was just shifting me. Does that make sense? So that's when we started shifting, like, who do we really want to serve? Who do these different things, right? And Marcus told me one day, shout out to my guy Marcus Rozier, he was like, bro, in the Bible, it talks about when he was like, God always changes your name when he finna take you to a new level, right? So he was like, Abram became Abraham. He was like, Abram was already rich. Before God said, go here and I'm gonna make you this, he was already rich because it says when he left, he took all his slaves, he took all his merch. They had a whole bunch of stuff they took with him. He wasn't supposed to take anything, but he took all his stuff. So that shows he was rich. He had cattle, the whole nine.
Right.
But it was like, then he changed his name to Abraham, right? And he was like, then he became rich and fulfilled. So he was like, well, God is taking you, bro. He's taking you from just being rich to being rich and fulfilled.
Yeah.
But for Abram to land there, he went through a lot to land there. So it's like, it's not you don't go from, and I talk about this a lot, you don't go from mountaintop to mountaintop. You got to go from mountaintop back down a mountain, through the valley, and then climb a whole new mountain.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's what I thought was happening, but what really was happening, God was just shifting me. It just ain't feel good.
That's good,
Does
bro.
that answer the question?
That's good. And I think my final question is, where do you feel like you are now and what season spiritually, and then where are you in business and how things change?
So I would say, so that season we was talking about, that was that cocoon season, right? I feel like, so that's why the Holy Spirit told me I'm in that butterfly phase. So I legit feel like I'm in that butterfly phase, where it's like, from a personal life and a business standpoint, I'm just at a place of peace. Like, I'm not anxious about anything. Even now, I don't want to say this to say I'm perfect, I'm there, but it's like, I'm more aware. So when I do find myself trying to grab control, trying to do more, I'm like, all right, Michael, you tripping, let's get back into, or when I do, those thoughts do come up, I'm like, no, that ain't me. So just being more aware of it, but just operating from that place, slower mornings. I don't need to get up in the morning and hit no long list. I don't need to, so like even on Facebook, I post, I used to be like, I need to post 3 to 5 times a day on my Facebook. Like I ain't even, like on my Facebook, today what, Thursday? I ain't posted on Facebook all week, I don't think, except for Monday, right? Chris handles the Instagram, and we got the other platforms or whatever. But Rachel and them do an amazing job with like the Instagram and the YouTube and a lot of other cool stuff. But it's like my personal thing is Facebook, but I don't feel like I ain't feel bad that I hadn't posted. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like, because I don't feel like, and then everything has been taken care of, so I don't need to micromanage the team. Team is doing their thing. Like, I ain't anxious. Like, when we did the event, I'm not like checking the numbers and nerding out on the numbers and all the different type of stuff, right? So it's like, even when Rachel and I, we have our conversation, it's like, here's the numbers, here's what it's looking like, and I'm like, all right, cool. So that we gonna let the numbers do what they do, and it's like we just operating from, instead of let me put it this way, instead of operating for success, operating from success, operating from fulfillment, operating from peace, instead of operating for something. And it's like, this last thing I say on this is like, I was watching, and again, as I've been kind of going on this path, it's amazing to me like how I hear other individuals who are like, who I watch or learn from or read their books, kind of went through similar situations. Whereas like, I was watching this interview the other day, and it's Patrick Lencioni. He's like one of my favorite authors. He was like, he had to do some deep therapy work. He said he had to do some deep therapy work where he realized that he was trying to get his candle lit in all these different areas, from business, from team, from all that. But he was like, but it all came from just like childhood trauma. So then I started analyzing myself and like, dang, how much of my life and accomplishment and drive and all this has been because I'm trying to fill some kind of void from childhood. Does that make sense? So just operating from that level of awareness, and it's like, okay, here's the goals, here's what we focus on, but it's also surrendered to God at the same time.
That's good.
So now you just build and create from a different place. Because last thing is like me and Mike, our ass coach, who was talking, and he was like, man, it's getting fun again in his role. Yep. And I was like, bro, that's exactly what it is. I was like, it got to a place where it wasn't fun no more.
I got you.
Because it was like we had so many team members, so much going on, so much this. And it's like, with an agile business, when you need to change something, it's like a car when you could driving down the street and you need to get over real quick. You're like, dang, I'm finna miss my exit. Or I need to make this turn. And you can do what? You can just get over real quick. But when your business gets so big, you can't do that. Right. It's like you got a big 18-wheeler. And if you try to get over real quick, you'll flip this joint. Yep. You can't just bust a U-turn at the light with a big 18-wheeler. So we had got to that point where it was like big 18-wheeler. So it's like, we want to turn around, we got to drive all the way down, then get to a place where we can turn around a turn. But it's like when you're more agile, you like need to adjust, you can be like, all right, I just need to get over real quick. I need to bust this quick UE right quick. So, and then operating, from that place.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think even when we look at like from hustle to wholesomeness, like it's a dope transition. So I'm proud of you and your journey, bro.
For sure. Gotcha. Hey, congratulations on making it to the end of the episode. If you enjoyed this episode, you definitely want to check out the next episode that we got, probably popping up on the screen right here somewhere. And also make sure you subscribe to this show, and also check in the description section. We got a ton of resources for you to actually implement a lot of the strategies and insights when we talk about building a business that can actually run without you. Go ahead and do that right now, and we'll see you in the next episode.